Hey everybody, I'm going to enrich your life here with a message from Archangel Metatron today. Kind of a strange name for an archangel, right? Makes me think of robots. Archangel Metatron's pretty profound if you ever choose to connect with him. He's old. He's an ancient energy, and I always see him as a very, very old man, but he wears disguises and he's very good at wearing disguises. Way back when, somewhere around 2016, I was being attacked by a demonic experience that was integrated into my dreams. I remember having this dream where my front door was open in the dream, and I got this very creepy feeling as someone was in my home space that's not supposed to be there. And I woke up and I had this creepy feeling like I let something in that I shouldn't have let in. And it was Archangel Metatron all along, but it took about 5 days and a lot of discomfort and even a feeling like I was being watched by ravens, that they were always watching me. I didn't know what they were thinking. I don't know what their plans were with me, but it made me feel like my stomach was turning. And it sounds so absurd, right? And when you're having a real authentic experience, this stuff is, well, it's as real as it gets. I remember when I finally chose to just enter into my inner world and open my eyes inside myself and take a look at what I was afraid of. The moment I did that, it was like, ta-da! It was just me. It was Metatron. I never even heard of this guy until Joe, my husband, introduced me. This was years ago. And I never heard of this guy in my life. And where do you even get this archangel name? Where's this even come from? Well, I'm open-minded. I mean, there's only so many names out there, but I have a feeling there's a lot more names than we know of those names. I think there's a lot more in history that's not been written down, hasn't been identified, that is extraordinary. And that's why I'm pretty open-minded to anything that has a name or doesn't have a name. It's going to exist. It's an infinite universe. Of course it's going to exist. Well, once I was introduced to Archangel Metatron, I remember talking to him, and I always felt uncomfortable with his energy, always did, for several months. It took that weird dream and that demonic disturbance for several days, which was himself, because he wears disguises. It took all of that for me to finally come around and actually be able to embrace his presence, because he's going to challenge you. You know, we want an archangel that makes us feel safe. Well, what if you want an archangel that doesn't? I mean, what is feeling safe? Stunts your growth, or take a break from growth because you're tired, or just keep growing and find a way to absorb in all that hurts and fuel your fire with it, you know? Another bad thing happens, and eventually you'll stop getting angry at those bad things that happen, and you'll start to say, okay, I need this. This is fuel for my fire. This is my growth. I'm glad this is happening right now because I need to learn whatever I'm meant to learn from this. And you're going to have stuff that's going to last your entire life. And you're going to have stuff that just happens for 1 week. And you're going to have stuff in there like overlapping stuff, overlapping. And you're still growing. And you can't run away from it. You can't hide under a rock. So you might as well embrace it and go through this experience. Become stronger and carry some pride in yourself over it, you know? That's just a little background on Archangel Metatron. But I'm just going to sit here in stillness and see what Archangel Metatron would like to share with all of us today. It's going to be a complicated message. All right, so there's the experience of being a human being sitting on a chair, just like I'm doing right now. And the entire left side of one's body, it's almost like it's rotting away on the left side. The entire left side is just rotting away. Especially you can feel it around the face and inside the head and the brain. But the right side seems to be fine. And so there's this really profound sense of decay, like half of oneself, half yourself is in decay and the other half is just fine. And then I feel Archangel Metatron's asking me to just look at this picture, not from the inside of it, not to feel it like Well, there you go. Half of your life, you're going to feel like half yourself is in decay. The other half is fine. It's not like half your life. It's like your whole life. You go through your whole life feeling like your whole self carries decay and everything is fine, is happening simultaneously. Okay. But not to be in that, actually be outside of that, looking from the outside, and just looking at the surface of it. It's interesting because it makes me feel vulnerable. So right now, I have many different perspectives. Right now, I'm talking to Archangel Metatron, so I feel that energetic pattern. I feel that presence. I also still, while I'm not supposed to be, I still am in the seat of decay and just fine. As I'm also looking at this representation of a human being, decay, just fine, reacting to it as I'm also looking at this whole picture. So I have a lot of perspective happening all simultaneously. And I'm watching myself reacting, and I'm reacting really extreme. Like I'm irate about it, I'm angry about it. I'm so angry about it. It makes me feel like I'm looking at a strange doll that I want to rip apart. I don't know what's going to be accomplished from any of this, but something inside me tells that part of myself, well, do what you got to do. And this part of me just takes it out, and I just start taking these decayed parts and tossing these okay parts and tossing it. And I just rip it apart like it's I'm beating up a big human-esque doll. It doesn't seem to have a heartbeat. It doesn't seem to be alive. And then this me that just ripped it apart cries. Metatron did nothing to stop this. Metatron did nothing to inform me of what he's even talking about. Metatron just stood there and watched. Because what was most important was the exchange. What was most important was to know what it's like to sit in that body and to explore what that means to you, but also to know what it's like to look at that reflection and to be angry at it. So angry you want to rip it apart, and to know that you had the freedom to do it if you really wanted to get it really out of your system. And then after you get out of your system, to just cry because it's so bewildering, it's so defeating. And then to watch yourself do all of these things. And then to look at Archangel Metatron as though you expect some kind of guidance here. Metatron's talking to me, really talking about, it's to all of us. It's about fixing things. How do you fix problems? How do you fix people? How do you fix yourself? How do you fix things? You know, if you're a Mr. Fix It or Mrs. Fix It, you just know how to fix stuff. They're like, oh, car engine, no big deal. I know how to fix it. Oh, building a house, easy. I know how to do that. I know how to fix it. But people, how do you fix people? How do you fix your emotions? How do you fix your memories? How do you fix your circumstances? How do you fix it? How do you fix your life? And there's this long neutral pause without really much of a thought, like, oh, I know. I'll just call the doctor, you know? The doctor is gonna fix it. The medicine's gonna fix it. That's what's gonna fix it. I'm gonna do some yoga that'll fix it. I'll listen to some heavy metal, that might fix it, because then I can just rage in my car. I'm gonna go splurge and get a bunch of food, and that's gonna fix it, and just watch TV, you know, that's gonna fix it. It's like, what's gonna fix it, you know? He's talking about something important now, because that neutral pause, you kind of expect to answer, but there's just no answer, which then is the answer. Because you can offer a bajillion answers, which they all could be useful, you know, depending on the circumstance. I'm sure any of those examples could be useful. But is it going to fix it, or is it just a band-aid for the time being? Because the life is really the predicament. Human life is, how do you fix human life? What if there's nothing to fix? You might say, oh, there's definitely something to fix here. Okay, how do you fix it? What do we fix? What's the thing that needs to be fixed, and then how do we fix it? Is it just another idea? And so where are we at right now? You know, what is the seat that we're sitting in right now with ourself, with us right now? Like, where am I sitting with myself? Where are you sitting with yourself right now? just as you are. Come as you are, as you were. Well, I've got some kind of nirvana in my head here. You just come as you are. You just, this is me. Take it or leave it. It's interesting because there's perception going on here. Perception of what normal is, and that's the standard. We need to aspire to that standard of normal. But that standard of normal might mean something to this person that is a little bit different to that person. And so even the standard of normal is got its variations, right? Because even what does the standard of a normal society look like? Might mean one person's utopia is another person's hell. So what's normal here? To me, what normal is the most heart-centered we could ever be. And that takes development. That I always paying attention to these details, like how brutally honest. And why is there a gray area with honesty? And why do you have to work on being honest? Why wouldn't that be the most natural thing that you would ever want to always just be honest? Because that's the only ground that anything could ever be built upon is honest ground. Because if it's ground of lies, then it's going to fall apart. Eventually, it will fall apart. Lies do not hold any substance in the long scheme of things, okay? It's useful for the learning, but it's not solid. It doesn't create solid ground. And so I find that to be pretty profound, all right? To my human mind, I'm like, whoa, man, just this alone with honesty is mind blowing. Okay. And so, how do you fix it? How do you get heart centered? How do you explore what is the finishing touches of honesty in all its balance? Well, we have to live in an honest world. And how honest can the world be? And maybe there's a certain courtesy about a kind way of expressing something and not including all the brutal details. Or maybe rubbing someone's face in the raw truth, like it's made out of broken glass. And well, you know what? You need to eat that for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You need to start digesting the reality of things because life is pain. Get caught up, get caught up with reality. And then you're going to build some muscle and some strength, and it's not going to hurt anymore. Done. Drop the mic. It's just honesty. This is just one tiny, tiny, tiny little minuscule window of a bigger picture of the day in the life of being human. Just that alone is huge. It's huge. And yet it's such a small picture of a bigger viewpoint of everything. It's interesting because these neutral pauses, you ever have just the power of a pause? You ever pay attention to that? The power of a pause? So I find that there is this etiquette to communication where we feel like we should be going back and forth, and there should be a reasonable amount of time given to this person to say what they need to say, and then you say what you need to say, and then maybe you need to talk over each other sometimes. But if there's this elongated pause, it's a very vulnerable space. Elongated pauses are very vulnerable spaces, and I'm very intrigued by that vulnerable space of the elongated pause because there's a need to fill in the gap. There's a need to say something. Otherwise, what is a conversation if we're just sitting in an elongated pause? But I also find that if you're working in a conversation that's difficult, elongated pauses are very powerful for yourself because you can say something and then say nothing. And then you can just talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. and then you don't have to say anything until there's an elongated pause. And then you could stay in an elongated pause. You don't have to say anything. I mean, who's in control of the conversation now? The elongated pause. I find that fascinating. That's just another little thing, the bigger picture of human day-to-day life. And maybe that's why. How do we fix it? Well, someone's elongated pause is another person's vulnerable space. That's their terror zone. Just sit in silence. How long can you cope with that? Is that hell for you? Well, now you're going to have to sit in silence for a very long time so you can conquer what feels uncomfortable about that. Because you're literally just sitting with yourself. What's so bad about you? Another example. These are potentially tools that you can work with in your own life to fix it or just to live, And I feel like that's where this equation or these patterns are taking us, is to really mellow out a bit, and to go through life and be who you become through the process, and what little gems of wisdom you acquire along the way is who you are, and what's been gifted to you through what you've gone through. Even if it was ugly, you become a more beautiful person, even if you become a more ugly person to yourself. Maybe you yourself are saying, man, the damage is done and it cannot be undone, and I'm basically ruined. And I know you have to sit with that. Now you have to sit with your filthy, rotten, ruined self. But guess what? You get a starting point. Who do you want to be now? Well, I can't be anybody else. I can only be this. Damage is done. Okay, well, so this is your starting point. So who do you want to be now? So you want to be a damaged person now for the rest of your life? Or do you want to be a healed person? Well, I just feel like I'm grieving the person that I lost, and it makes me angry that I lost that person. Okay, so right now you're grieving yourself. You're grieving your life story. You're grieving what made you a better person, makes you feel ugly. So who do you want to be now? Someone who's grieving the loss of another self that you admired being, who now you've gone through this learning, you've learned a great deal and you become wiser and better, but yet you feel like you've lost so much and you're just a grosser version of yourself and you'll never be great, pristine, innocent ever again. Okay, but you're just starting here. So now what are you going to do? Like, life is full of so many pathways. Life is full of so many interesting details. And it's okay to take the time to sit and wallow in it. It's okay to do that, you know? It's okay to take the time. I just feel like that's a time of grief. And I always ask that question. That's another one of those things that I ponder about is, how long does it take to grieve something? Because sometimes you're in a situation that you're not going to win. You're going to lose. And that's despairing. That's breaking. That is humbling, really, if you can get there. It might shatter your pride. It might wake you up to being a more authentic person than you ever were before. But you're going to grieve the power and the control you felt like you had. And now you realize that you're not as powerful as you thought. That there's a weird grieving window in there. Does any of it matter? Is it really that important? Holding on to your ego is really that important to you? Well, you got to adapt. You got to adapt to how you changed. You got to adapt to the person that you become. And maybe you're a lot more polished and more beautiful than you're giving yourself credit for, because you're still grieving the past. You're still grieving what happened. You're still grieving the stories. But while there's this one part of you in decay, you've got this other part of you that's totally fine. So which one do you want to be working with today? The rest of the world has every right to navigate its own identity, its own path, its own inspirations. And that is going to impact you. But how are you going to work with those exchanges? Who are you going to grow into in this life? And that's really all there is this place where you stand with yourself, or you sit with yourself, and you find the meaning of life through living in it, not by trying to fix it, but just by being at peace with the challenges that come and the person you're molding and shaping yourself into being. And it's your choice who that person is going to be. If that person is going to wallow in the mud of your circumstances for the rest of your life or not. And nobody's going to judge you if you choose at this time to do that. Because the truth of the energy world is nobody's putting you down. It's like Metatron did not step in when I was ripping the crap out of, whatever this representation of a person is, in order for us to get to this point in the conversation. Metatron honored what my personal needs were. I even honored my own personal needs because I didn't interrupt it. I needed to see what this was about. I need to understand what this exchange was. That the spirit realm isn't going to save you from yourself. It's up to you to decide to save yourself from yourself, if that's what you feel like you need to do at this time. But you need to ask yourself what it is that you need to do at this time to be at peace with yourself and your life, and what are the decisions you want to make, and what do you want to do with your life? Because this is where you're standing, or where you're sitting with yourself right now, and you're sitting with time. You're digesting it all. And maybe it's more okay than it is in decay. It's up to you to decide, though. So, alrighty, Metatron hath spoken. It's kind of weird because it seems like Abbey hath spoken, but that's what happens when you enter into a journey state and you connect with energetic patterns. And so literally it's just a radio station, and my intention is powerful. So my intention is I'm going to hang out with Metatron today, then That is 100%. There's no, well, maybe Metatron. Maybe, because if it's maybe Metatron, then it's everything. And so you really got to identify what is it specifically, and then you have to take ownership of that. So I am specifically taking ownership that I'm connecting with Metatron, and I'm going to share a jazzy, cool message with all of us. If it's meant to be jazzy and cool, it's going to be whatever it is. But that's always my intention, you know. And so now I get to express that to the mirror, the cosmic mirror. So I go within myself and I express that intention, its frequency, and then the cosmic mirror bounces the message back. And then I'm navigating the message within myself through these, it's just imagery. It's just the experience of information inside myself, the experience of information. And then I share in detail the experience of information, and I navigate my own inspirations as I'm connected to that in order to share this message, which the intention was Metatron. And then from that mirror, then Metatron hath spoken. This is what presents itself. And only I can really describe the details. Otherwise, we sit in a long, awkward silence, and then you're going to have to decide what happened. All right. Thank you so much for watching. Hey, now, if I can help you in a session, you can book a session with me, and I can even teach you how to develop your psychic skills as well. And you can book a session at my website at abbeynormalswisdomquest.com. That's all I got. Have an awesome day. Bye for now.